Before we start building JWT authentication, let's first prepare our Spring Boot project. Every secure application begins with the right dependencies. Spring Security provides authentication and authorization, helping us secure our REST APIs. Spring Data JPA simplifies database operations by eliminating the need to write SQL for common tasks. The MySQL driver enables our application to communicate with the MySQL database. Finally, the JWT library allows us to generate, sign, validate, and parse JWT tokens. With these dependencies in place, we're ready to build a complete, secure, stateless authentication system using Spring Security and JWT. Now that our project is set up, let's organize it using a production-ready package structure. A well-structured project makes the code easier to understand, maintain, and scale. The controller package handles incoming HTTP requests, while the entity package represents our database tables. The repository package communicates with the database, and the service package contains the business logic. Security-related classes such as SecurityConfig, JWT-AuthenticationFilter, and JWT-Service are placed in dedicated security packages. This separation of responsibilities keeps the application clean, modular, and follows industry best practices. Now let's create our first database entity, the user entity. An entity is simply a Java class that maps to a database table. In our application, each row in the users table represents one user. This class stores important information such as the user's ID, username, and encrypted password. During authentication, Spring Security retrieves this user from the database to verify the credentials. Later, we'll also associate roles like role_user and role_admin with this entity to implement role-based authorization. Now that our user entity is ready, we need a way to access user information from the database. That's where the user repository comes in. Instead of writing SQL queries manually, we simply extend JPA repository, and Spring Data JPA automatically provides common database operations like save, find, update, and delete. We also define a custom method called find by username. During login, Spring Security uses this method to locate the user by username before verifying the password. This makes authentication simple, efficient, and easy to maintain. Our repository can now retrieve users from the database, but Spring Security still doesn't know how to use it. That's where CustomUserDetailsService comes in. This class acts as a bridge between Spring Security and our database. It implements the UserDetailsService interface and overrides the loadUserByUsername method. Whenever a user tries to log in, Authentication Manager automatically calls this method. It searches the database using user repository, retrieves the user, and returns a user details object that Spring Security uses to verify the username, password, and assign roles. After the user's credentials are successfully verified, the next step is to generate a JWT token. This responsibility belongs to the JWT service class. It creates a secure token containing information such as the username, issue time, expiration time, and a digital signature. The generated JWT is then returned to the client. For every future request, the client sends this token in the authorization header instead of sending the username and password again. JWT service is also responsible for validating the token, checking whether it has expired, and extracting the user information needed for authentication. After the client receives the JWT token, it includes the token in the authorization header of every protected request. Before the request reaches the controller, Spring Security executes the JWT authentication filter. This filter extracts the JWT from the request, asks JWT service to validate it, and retrieves the username from the token. It then loads the user's details from the database using CustomUserDetailsService. If the token is valid, the filter creates an authentication object and stores it in the security context holder. From this point onward, Spring Security considers the user authenticated, allowing the request to continue to the controller. The final piece of our JWT authentication system is the SecurityConfig class. This is where we define the application security rules. We specify which APIs are public, such as the login and registration endpoints, and which APIs require authentication. We also configure the application to use stateless sessions because JWT authentication doesn't store user sessions on the server. Finally, we register our JWT authentication filter in the security filter chain so that every protected request is validated before reaching the controller. With this configuration in place, our Spring Boot application is ready to securely authenticate and authorize users using JWT. If you found this helpful, like, subscribe, and share.